Hey everybody, come on in. It's Hindsight News. We're going to start in just a minute. Just making sure we're up and live everywhere. Before we start though, let's let the lawyers come in and speak. Hey everybody, come on in. This is Hindsight News. We're going to talk news. We're going to cover a lot of the news that the mainstream media can't cover because they have no journalistic integrity and they don't cover real news. They're propaganda. They push an agenda of the powerful and the predator class, the elite that own the news and own the media and own the information. So we're going to try to get a little truth out tonight. That's what we're going to attempt to do. That is the point of Hindsight News. So please share this. Share this out. Get this out as far as you can. We're going to talk about some important stuff. We're going to talk about the Ecuadorian protests. We're going to talk about Julian Assange's hearing that took place today. We're going to talk about Hillary's attacks on Tulsi Gabbard and what that means. We're going to talk about a new bank law that they passed in California. A lot of different stuff that's not really being focused on in the mainstream media. So come on in and invite your friends. I'm going to do the same real quick. I'm going to pull this up and invite some friends on Facebook and share it on YouTube. We are live on YouTube right now too. So get this out as far as you can. Sorry about that. We're going to talk about some important stuff. We're going to talk. Sorry about that. Live show. Mistakes are going to happen. But we're live on YouTube as well. And check us out on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Me on Things and Stuff. And the link will be shared to my Facebook page here in just a second. But come on in. The top story that I want to talk about tonight on Hindsight News has to do with Julian Assange. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But I want to let you know that this is a weekly show now. This is our second or third week. Second week in the Monday night spot. But we'll be doing this moving forward every week. And you know what this is we look back at the news of the previous week and everything important that I think was overlooked by the media, we're going to talk about it and cover it. And that's what we're going to do here. So come on in and we'll go ahead and get started. The top thing I wanted to talk about, the main story tonight, is about Julian Assange's hearing today. Julian Assange, there was a hearing involving Julian and whether or not they could get a delay in his extradition hearing to the United States that is coming up in February. They were trying to get more time to prepare their defense, and it was denied. It was denied. And Julian Assange appeared in court today, clean shaven and looking well. But when asked his name and his date of birth, seemed confused by the question. And then when asked if he understood what was going on, what was happening, he also seemed confused. So there was a lot there that was negative, the takeaways. And the way he talked about what his situation is, he's not being given a fair chance to prepare a defense. He has no access to computers, no access to his files, no access to his writings. Up until, a week ago, he was having to correspond with his lawyers through the mail. Through the mail. And they read all of his mail. They go through his mail and then they censor his mail. So he can't even have a real conversation with his lawyers to prepare for a massive, massive undertaking of a trial. The crimes that they are going after Julian for and Chelsea Manning are stupendously large. I don't even know where to start. I don't have the legal knowledge to explain them correctly, and a lot of the stats are mind blowing. But he is not being given a fair chance to prepare a defense. And that is something that needs to concern everyone. Man is being persecuted for sharing the truth. WikiLeaks is a publishing or a site. They publish information that is given to them by leakers and whistleblowers. It's crucial that we defend that and defend truth. He's a truth teller and he's being persecuted and prosecuted for telling the truth. And his request to delay and give him more time to prepare for his defense was denied. So it's going to move forward in February, and we have to stand up. There was a lot of protesters there today, but there wasn't enough. It's going to have to be seas of people. It's going to have to be like what we're seeing in Ecuador and what we're seeing in Hong Kong and what we're seeing in France. It's going to have to be people taken to the streets. And I'm not in those situations, a lot of those situations, like, and if what they point the camera at, anyway, in Ecuador has turned violent. And I'm not calling for that. I'm saying it's inevitable. We've got to stand up and fight in some way, in some shape or form. We have to do all we can to move this fight forward. And if we don't fight for the truth, nobody will. And if we allow a truth teller to be persecuted and tried for crimes against the United States, this man's life is on the line. We can't allow this. If we allow this, then the progression towards living in complete deceit and complete surrounded by complete and total lies will be well on its way. The truth is dying, and we have to defend it and fight for it, or it will die. And that Julian Assange being persecuted, and just the sight of him today, and not being able to really recall his name, you got to imagine what's on his mind. How much stress, how much worry has to be weighing on that man. And then to be in that position to not be able to prepare. How is that even right? How is that justice? He's being he's under a massive attack, and to not let that man prepare his defense is a crime of justice, you know. But we're going to have to be the voice. We're going to have to be the ones that fight for Julian because the law is failing him so far, and we can't allow him to be persecuted like this. We can't allow this to happen. And if it happens, it will be because we allowed it to happen. We let it happen. Because we have to stop it. We are the ones that have to stop it. We are the ones we've been waiting for. No hero is coming to save us in any shape or form. And I mentioned it a second ago, but the next main story I want to make sure we get to tonight, and we'll cover more of these later on. I'm sure that once I get to comments and start looking at your comments, we'll get into a lot of things. But the Ecuador protests, the protests going on in Ecuador, there are massive protests, massive uprising going on in Ecuador over austerity programs and fuel taxes. And it's not being covered, and what coverage it is getting is completely negative and misleading. But the people are making change. Now, they have gotten a lot accomplished with what they've done so far, but they've not fully accomplished their goals, and they say they won't stop until the president himself steps down. Which I was watching a feed on Al Jazeera, and they had a former government official from Ecuador on, and he was talking about is not something that has never happened in Ecuador. It's something that is unfortunately kind of common that the people rise up and remove people from power, or the president will step down for different reasons, corruption, etc. So That's what they're trying to do, is remove him from power completely. Now, he is US backed, not surprisingly. And one of the big things was this massive fuel tax, but a lot of it was these austerity programs, and some of it was just outrageous. Like, you'd have to look into it to get into it, and I could list it off for you, some of it that I remember off the top of my head, but like government employees having to donate a day to the government, and just outrageous amounts of taxes, and just fines and fees and etc. and different regulations, and all to benefit the rich. And the people said no, and the people stood up, and they're fighting back, and the media's not covering it. The foreign media is. I mentioned Al Jazeera, and I also watch RT. These are actually good news sources. You're taught to believe that, oh, don't trust them because they're foreign funded. Well, unfortunately, the government isn't in control of the media here. And the media is corporatized and owned by 6 companies, and it's entertainment at best. The news isn't news. Reporting and journalism doesn't exist anymore. It's not something that happens. It's something that died off long ago. The news at best now is entertainment, and at worst is weaponized propaganda. That's what it literally is. But they don't show you things like what's happening in Ecuador, and what happened and what's happening in Hong Kong, and what is happening in France. They don't point the cameras at that stuff because they don't ever want the people to realize that their true power lies in their numbers, and that we can make this change, because they're accomplishing things in France. They accomplished things in Hong Kong, and they are accomplishing things in Ecuador. And all the media wants to show you is the violence in Ecuador. And unfortunately, it has turned violent in Ecuador. And they've done a lot of interesting things. Like, they raided the parliament. Now, the president already moved the government, they said 400 kilometers away, to a different location, a secret location, because they've declared a state of emergency. And so they've all went into hiding because the people are coming for them. They want massive change, and they'll get it. It'll happen. He may even step down. You know, they can do it. The people can do that. And that's what has to happen. We can do it peacefully, but we're going to have to do it. That's the only thing that's going to save someone like Julian. That's the only thing that's going to protect him, is us doing our part, and us realizing that we have to take ownership of this, and do all we can moving forward to bring awareness to these important things, and to let people know the truth about Julian, for example, the truth about what's going on in Ecuador, the truth about what's happening in France, and the truth about, all of this stuff that's happening around the world. There are massive uprisings happening all over the world. This greed that's crippling society doesn't just exist in America. It has a really good hold on us here, and we're very deceived into believing that it doesn't even exist here, but some places are a lot more negatively affected going by what we're doing. Sorry, I read a word. By what we're doing in the world. There was even a piece, Redacted Tonight just covered it, where the U.S. has been declared, by the Huffington Post even, a rogue nation. And Lee, who is the host of Redacted Tonight, Lee Camp, did a spectacular monologue about how we are a rogue nation, and some highlights from that monologue were how we're currently in 8 different wars, unsanctioned, and we drop a bomb every 12 minutes. He said how many bombs, but I can't remember numbers that good. I'm really bad at remembering numbers. But another interesting stat that I got from his rant about us being a rogue nation, which the U.S. absolutely is a rogue nation. Just by definition alone, we're a rogue nation. But we're mad with power. We have 800 to 1,000 military bases scattered around this planet. He had it on a little globe, Lee did, on the show, to illustrate it. And there was a little red dot everywhere there's a base. It looked like the planet had measles. We're everywhere. We are literally Team America World Police. We are a rogue nation. We're out of control. Excuse me. And the only thing that will stop it, the only thing that can stop it is for the people to put a stop to it. The United States is protected from by how bad things actually are worldwide because we happen to be the military arm of the powers that be, the predator class, the elite, those that rule us from behind the curtain. You know, that stuff's real. That exists. No matter how you want to look at it, how you want to label them, or these people that we're talking about, no matter how you, what label you want to put on them, they're real. They own us. They bought and paid for us. They hold the lease to all of the land and all of the resources. They own our water. They control everything. But they are few and we are the many. You see what I'm saying? We can stop their greed. We can put an end to it. We just have to rise above their weapons and realize our power and then move forward united and we can make massive change. But what was going on in the media? What are they covering? They're not covering Ecuador. There was very little coverage of Julian Assange's hearing. You know, they're not even letting you know who Julian Assange really even is. They're hiding that. They're distorting that. They're trying to convince you that he's some super spy Russian asset. That's not true. They don't spy. They don't hack. WikiLeaks doesn't do that. They release information, publish information that is given to them by whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning got that information. However, Chelsea Manning got that information, delivered it to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks published it. You know, that was their correspondence between each other, was arranging for the information to be exchanged. They're not super spies. Chelsea saw injustice, saw something that was wrong, and brought it to light. People like that need to be protected and celebrated, but instead are vilified, called enemies of the state, and persecuted. So that's what's happening, and the media is not going to help anyone understand that. They're definitely not going to help anyone understand that in any way, shape, or form. But that's for us to do. That's our job. Steve says Chile's going off now. It's happening all over the world. People are rising up. It's happening here right now. It's happening actually in a couple different ways right now. We're not fully on the same page. There's a couple different uprisings going on civilly, peacefully right now in this country, but they will all come to a head. It will, because things will get worse. You know, we haven't hit rock bottom yet. Things haven't gotten really bad for Americans yet. We've been very protected from what's going on worldwide. On a worldwide scale, we're very sheltered. But in the media, instead of Ecuador and instead of Julian Assange, they're reporting on Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton and Chelsea wrote a book. You should see some of the crowds, by the way, showing up to their book tour. It's very sad, very laughable, actually, pictures of these empty auditoriums. But they wrote a book and they're doing a talk show circuit tour. And she's using that platform to slander Tulsi Gabbard, who is a presidential candidate running in the Democratic primary, and also a soldier, an enlisted active duty soldier that currently is also a congresswoman, very respected American citizen. Hillary is painting her as a Russian asset and that she works for the Russians and everything she does is for the Russians and blah blah blah, which is really it's I hope Tulsi sues her. I would sue her. If I was Tulsi Gabbard, I would sue Hillary Clinton because what she's saying I know is something you could sue for. Is it slander or libel? I don't know which one's which. One is written, one is vocal. But I would sue her. Donald Trump would sue her. It's crazy what she's saying, and she's saying it to anyone that'll listen. And Hillary's just a sad, sad woman, an evil person, a horrible lady. And it shows every time she opens her mouth. Anytime she gets an opportunity to show you who she is, she shows you. And that's why she didn't win the presidency. It had nothing to do with Russia. All of that, what the mainstream media talks about Russia, what Rachel Maddow uses her platform to get on TV and tell you every night about how Russia rigged the election, that's all lies. That's fake. That's not real. Rachel Maddow gets paid $30,000 an episode to tell you that. It's ridiculous that people listen to the media. It really is. The mainstream media is nothing but entertainment. And it's really it's weaponized propaganda is what it is. It's designed to misinform you, to to divide us up in little groups to make us easily controllable. That's what it's for. It's a distraction tool. They never point the cameras at anything real. And when they do point the cameras at something, and especially when they all do it at the same time, I'm always suspicious of that. Anything that is getting coverage, I always wonder, A, why is it getting coverage? Why is it? Okay, Cindy says libel is print, slander is spoken. So slander, I'd sue her for slander. But I forget what I was saying, but Jeff says Russiagate must die before anything else. Russiagate's so dangerous. Russiagate was, and it worked. That's what they do. So they rigged the Democratic primary. The media and the DNC working together this was exposed in WikiLeaks. This is one of the reasons why Julian Assange is being persecuted, because he exposed that the Democrats rigged the 2016 primary. That is a fact. That's a fact. That is out there, and that is what Julian is being persecuted for. And that is what Seth Rich died to release that information. And someone like Seth or someone like Chelsea or Edward Snowden or any of these whistleblowers that have come out and had their lives ruined to tell the truth, they need a place to be able to tell that truth. And they also need the protection of the people. We have got to realize that it's our job to protect them and our job to speak truth to power and stand up and make our voices heard, that we do not support this corruption and we do not support these people being silenced and their voices being taken away. But Rachel says she definitely has a case for slander, but she's too classy to get down in the mud too much. Well, I wish her campaign would do it. I wish she would do it. I think it would be a really good way to go, actually, because she's taunting her and telling her, get in the campaign. If you're going to try and manipulate the campaign from the outside, actively become part of the campaign and get involved in it and get your ass handed to you because you got your ass handed to you before. And you'll clearly get it'll happen again. And that's why she's on a book tour instead of the presidential election. She's not running for president because Hillary is fully aware that no one wants Hillary. I think it finally got through even her thick skull because she was prepared to run this all into the ground and did run it all into the ground. She is the reason why Donald Trump is president. Hillary Clinton and the DNC rigged the election for Hillary Clinton and also elevated Donald Trump. All of that was proven in the WikiLeaks, and that's what Julian is being persecuted for. That's why Julian Assange is in the predicament he is. And I really think that it's almost fully that. I don't think it has to do with much with what Chelsea released. I think that's just what they think they can get him on because that had to do with the military. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I think they're mad about the Hillary stuff and what was exposed in the WikiLeaks with all of that because Pizzagate was real, by the way. That they may not have been running out of Comet Pizza. I know Comet Pizza was a distraction, but Pizzagate was real. And that was all exposed in the WikiLeaks too. So the media did a good job of hiding that. And it's still out there. It's still out there. WikiLeaks still exists. As long as eh, we better protect it. We better make sure that it stays in existence. But for now, it's out there. And to not look at it and to not inform yourself is willful ignorance. And You're responsible for what's happening, for the things that are going on because you're not looking at it, because you aren't willing to look at it. It's willful ignorance. You have a computer in your pocket, this information exists, it's out there. But no, you want to mock people that tell you, hey, the elite and the rich are running sex rings. One was just exposed, Epstein, who didn't kill himself, by the way. What happened to that story? What happened to the Epstein story? Where'd that go? When was his funeral, by the way? When was Jeffrey Epstein's funeral? Someone sent me video of Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most famous people in the world when he died, the most important prisoner in the country was able to kill himself in his jail cell, and fractures in his neck don't match those of a suicide. They match those of a homicide. That's been found since. That was underreported. You didn't see that on the mainstream media. And like I said in the tagline for this show, this is all stuff the mainstream media would probably talk about if the mainstream media had any journalistic integrity. And if they were there to share news and benefit society, which is what they're supposed to be there for. What Kennedy pleaded with them to do in one of his final addresses ended up being one of the final things he said on this planet. But, you know, they want to talk about this. They give Hillary a platform to slander. Thank you for clarifying for me and make me look a little smarter now. Slander Tulsi Gabbard, who is a hero. You know, she's made the sacrifice to serve the country in multiple ways, as a soldier and in Congress, and is fighting for progressive and civil and human rights. She's a hero, but she's being vilified because she stands up for these things and spreads the truth and kneecapped Kamala Harris, who was um, basically Black Hillary. She was Hillary 2.0. That was the favorite. And look at what happened to her. She's not even talked about anymore. She's not even their third option now. Now it's Warren. They're still clinging on to Biden for whatever reason. I really couldn't tell you. And then their third option, from what I'm hearing, seems to be Pete Buttigieg, who is super polished, by the way, and also has a military background. But dude, he seems CIA to me. He seems planted, controlled opposition. I do not trust Pete Buttigieg. Steve says Tulsi's already suing Google. Add Hillary to the list. Cripple her financially. You know what? Look, Trump is being prosecuted, or they're trying to impeach Trump for not wiretapping. He didn't even wiretap. He was talking to another president and got information, or I don't know what they're implying, but somehow information came up about Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son and their dealings in this guy's country. Somehow that's not good, and Trump was wrong because Biden's running for president. Well, Tulsi's running for president. So how is it okay for Hillary to get on TV and use that platform to accuse Tulsi of being Russian, a Russian asset? You know, and think about that con. Think about giving all that time to the military and to serving in Congress and to working with the people, all of that effort and time just to fool everybody, to slander Hillary Clinton. Hillary really does think the entire world revolves around her. You know, but I do think she's got it in her head that she's not wanted. She's not going to enter the race. I still have people ask me if I think Hillary will enter the race, and no, I don't. I don't think there's any possibility Hillary Clinton will enter the race. But I wouldn't be surprised if she had Jeffrey Epstein killed. She's got like 100 something, over 100 friends that have mysteriously died. Isn't that weird? Does anybody believe in that many coincidences? I used to watch Columbo with my grandpa. Columbo was a TV detective, and any detective will tell you that coincidences don't exist. Detectives don't believe in coincidence. So I hope you don't plan on selling a story to a detective if you ever get caught committing a crime that has hundreds and of coincidences in it, like the powers that be do, like the elite do. You know, They'll package a lie that won't even hold up on its own, and they don't care. They'll sell it as truth and tell you you're crazy if you don't think it's true. And they'll use their media to do that. They use their media to paint reality and distort the truth and make people look crazy who are trying to tell the truth. And then social media is controlled. So that these things like this are suppressed in the algorithm. They don't get out very good. You know, it's really hard to share it. Some people, a lot of fans of my shows get put in Facebook jail, they tell me, for sharing my feeds. I get put in Facebook jail all the time for sharing my feeds. But I'm going to keep trying to do it until this platform doesn't exist. You know, we got to take use of it. And really, Facebook and YouTube, they should be considered utilities. They're really necessary in today's day and age. The global marketplace is online. So it's not fair to deplatform and cut people off. You know, let the audience decide. I'm so sorry that light is so bright, but it looks so good. I look a lot better. I still haven't got rid of all the shadow. I need to uplight, but we're working on it. We're getting more polished. But if you would like to support the shows and help us move forward, there's links in the description, and I would really appreciate that. But this is a regular thing now. So every Monday night at 8, we'll gather and talk about the news. But we won't spend much time talking about the mainstream media garbage. We're going to talk about what's really going on. Like California passed a public bank law that empowers public banks and takes power away from the big banks. And this is going to allow and give the opportunity for public owned banks to rise up and build in the economy in California. And it's historical, this law. And it takes a lot of power away from these big banks and control away from them. And you know how much influence they have, how much power and influence these big banks have. And you know, you remember in 2008, or was it 2008, that, or was that the real estate crisis? The Wall Street one is the one I'm talking about. The banks that were too big to fail. They have so much power, and you know, they got you convinced that the economy will collapse if something happens to them. And they spend billions of dollars to hold that power, and they've had that power for centuries. The big names at the top of the banking industry have held power for hundreds of years. You know, you can trace it all back. They own everything, play both sides of every war, and we are their military arm. That's who we are now. America is the military arm of the predator class because it's worldwide. It's not just here. We're just protected from the worst of it because we are the military arm. So we're not really a rogue nation in that sense. That's where Lee was off the mark just a little because we passed that point a long time ago. You know, the new world order is real. That agenda for a one world government is real. It's openly talked about. It's not conspiracy. This isn't the conspiracy theory show. This is reality. There is a one world government already in place. And, you know, it's officially called the United Nations, but it exists. And the United Nations isn't in control, but I'm saying there's a one world government there, but there's one behind the curtains as well. People don't like to talk about that, but like I told you already, the earth is bought and paid for. Like all of our resources, all of our land, buildings, property, all of that is owned by a handful of people that I could fit in this room. We could scroll their names on the TV right now, and I'd run out of time in 15 seconds. There's not that many of them. You know, Bernie talks about 1%, but it's a percentage of 1%. It's so much less than 1%. These people have so much wealth, they're like dragons in a Tolkien novel. It's disgusting. And they pay nothing into society. They don't contribute into society. You contribute more into society than any of these people do. And that's terrible. That's a terrible state of things. When the regular person is paying in more than Jeff Bezos, who makes so much money, it is disgusting. It would sound like I made it up. I don't know the figures in my head of what he makes a day, but it is a ridiculously large number every day. It's ridiculous. And it's more than anyone ever would need or could use in 1,000 lifetimes. But let me see what you guys are talking about. Steve says he's in jail. Oh, Yuli's here? Right on. Welcome to the show. But this is the Hindsight News Show. This is we gather here and talk about the news, and we talk about what the mainstream media news isn't covering. Like we covered Julian Assange's hearing today, which he was denied. If you're just tuning in, Julian Assange was denied. He was looking for more time to prepare for his extradition hearing that's coming up in February, and they denied it. And what he exposed today was some stuff people already knew if you follow it, but he's not being allowed a fair chance to prepare a defense. He's not got any access to computers or his files or his writings, and up until like a week ago, he had to correspond with his lawyers through the mail. It's just horrible what's going on, but they denied the delay, sadly. And then the Ecuadorian protests, we talked about those, and that they're winning. They're actually accomplishing a lot of things, have already accomplished a lot of their demands. They haven't gotten the president to step down yet, but I think they're gonna. I think they're heading in that direction. I think they'll be completely successful. But the mainstream media is not focusing on those things. The mainstream media is lying to you about Julian Assange and about what's happening in Ecuador, and they twist the truth. That's what they do. That's what they're for. So I felt like I needed to host a news show, and we could sit around and talk about what's important. But I want to hear from you. I want to know what you want to talk about. What is the most important news story that is not being covered right now? I really wish I could shake that cough. I've had a cough ever since the weather started changing. I live in Missouri, and there's a saying here that if you don't like the weather, wait, and it'll change. And it does change constantly, and it is very unpredictable, but it doesn't do well for the old chest colds. But Steve says, have you seen the clip of a newscaster asking AOC if she would consider a position in Bernie's administration? Bernie leads over and shouts, yes, you will. It's cute. No, I haven't. I got to look that up. But she will. Absolutely, she will. She's going to be part of the administration. I think Tulsi's going to be part of the administration. I really think they're going to co-campaign at some point. When Tulsi drops out, I believe she'll join Bernie's campaign. I really do. That's my prediction for what's going to happen. And I think Tulsi will be the eventual pick for VP. I know a lot of people want to see it be Nina, but I really think it'll be Tulsi. And even if it wasn't VP, she would have a prestigious position like Secretary of State, which she'd make a fantastic Secretary of State. And Nina could be VP, Bernie. But Tulsi's a bigger name. And I think she's running the presidential campaign to build her name even more, to have that status as the insurance for people's concern about Bernie's age. Just my theory. But let me see. What are you guys saying on YouTube? Let me go check YouTube. Comment and let me know what you want to talk about. What's the most important news story not being covered right now? There's been some victories in pipeline cases. Indigenous people are fighting to protect the water. And they won some cases in the pipeline battle. But big oil and big money will fight back. They will appeal, and they always do. And it's just an ongoing fight. And it's just sad that it's Native Americans and those groups that are doing all the fighting, you know? And it's terrible that, like Flint, Michigan, for instance, still has brown water coming out of the tap. Earlier we covered this, but we have a massive military budget. If you look at it on a global scale compared to other countries, it's like 10, 20, 30 times what even these big countries like China and Russia spend on military. We spend a disgusting amount on military, and we could be spending that money on the people, on society, on benefiting society, on building and improving our infrastructure. So no matter how you lean politically, this isn't this is a news show, so we're going to try to stay neutral politically. But you got to feel like, look, this greed is out of hand, and our crumbling roads and bridges need repaired. That would, you know, create lots of high-paying jobs with benefits. These are all good things, and these all need to happen. So no matter how you want to make them happen, can't we all agree they need to happen? And, you know, like these people, like Elizabeth Warren says she's a capitalist. They believe in this. And I'm not saying I don't believe in the American society or the American way of life or capitalism, but I would consider myself a democratic socialist. I believe that society should benefit the people. I believe that's the point of having a society. That's just my personal belief. This is not a personal belief show, but Steve says, do you think the American public would warm up to a Nina VP? Nina's very inspiring. I don't know though. I don't know. I don't think so. Really. I think she's too hardcore for a lot of people. We like it. We love it. She speaks to us, but I think Nina comes a little too hard, and she's not doesn't play it as political and lay back. In mainstream politics, you got to lay back sometimes and play to public perception, not just the woke and the aware and those that understand what's going on and are active in the fight. But you got to play to the whole crowd. So that means you got to play to the sheep as well, you know, and you have to remember that at all times, and that's going to affect the way you speak, and that's going to affect the way you act. And so to be in a VP position, I would expect him to pick the more polished person. I would expect him to pick Tulsi. So that's my prediction for VP. I would love to see Nina though. Nina inspires me. Nina riles everybody up. Nina's great. And watch the New York rally. Nina shredded um, Elizabeth Warren for like 6 minutes. I saw a highlight reel of it, and it was amazing. But she shredded her. There was a lot of good speeches at that rally. AOC's speech was really good. The Bernie rally was phenomenal. Huge crowd. No matter how you feel politically, you have to realize 30,000 people is a huge amount of people to come see a politician speak. Someone else that pulls down those numbers, though, or numbers like that, is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has massive support. That's what a lot of these people that are Democrat, that are blue no matter who, don't or fail to take into account and into consideration. Donald Trump also has massive support. For one, Republicans are fiercely loyal politically. They always vote Republican, and they will swallow their pride and vote for Donald Trump. But he has grassroots support as well. A large groundswell of people that support Donald. And he's raised a ton of money since they started talking about impeaching him. The media is a game. It's pageantry. They're controlling a narrative and manipulating reality. They're playing both sides. He's raised $100 million since they started talking about impeaching him. $100 million, over $100 million. It's crazy. And they're doing that. They're building it up. They're pumping it. They're fundraising for him. He's a pretend boogeyman. The media uses him. Both sides. Left and right leaning media uses Donald Trump for ratings. Steve says, I think she would, but Michael Moore was good too, and he gets lots of press on various news shows. Michael Moore came out and endorsed Bernie. Michael Moore has come around. And it's because he understands this is the way to win. And this massive change needs to happen. And just for a moment, I'll speak to Trump supporters. If you're a Trump supporter, do you really feel like he's going to make it happen? I I want to believe, because he is president. I don't want the president to fail. That would be stupid. I don't want the president to do good. So I want to believe he's going to do good, but I haven't seen it happen yet. and I haven't seen any evidence that he's going to. And we don't have a lot of time. We can't wait. So if I don't think he's gonna or is capable of massive change, I gotta change horses at this point in the race, don't I? So pleading with you to really look at whether or not staying in this path that we're on will get us to these things, will get us to this turnaround that we need to have in society. Because the greedy are going to suffocate and kill off this planet and humanity. They don't care. They already have underground cities and bunkers to live in. They're going to survive the worst of it. They don't care what happens. So we have to stand up and we have to fight it and we have to make change. And like I said, it's happening in a couple different ways. I got my way I'm rooting for, but I just want this change to happen. I want this greed driven system to be brought down, and I want the corrupt media to be brought down. I want to do all I can to expose it and to spread the truth. And like I said, now we're doing this professionally. We do these shows regular now. This will be every Monday night at 8 p.m. But we have other shows. We have the Daily Burn every day at 7, and that's a show for the revolution. That's a political show. On that one, I do give my opinion. And then every Wednesday night at 9 p.m., well, it's 8 p.m. usually, but this week it's going to be 9 p.m. Conspiracy Theories and Chill. And I have a special guest this week. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to announce it right after this. Special guest this week, interview. Big name, actually. And I'm excited about it. So I'm going to tell everybody what that is right after the show or at the end of the show. At the end, I'll announce it and the topic. And then Thursday night's Yankee Rants, which is a rant show. I rant about things. And Fridays is Yankee Show as an entertainment podcast show. We do that every Friday. But these are all regular shows, and you can support them with the links in the description. And please do. I would greatly appreciate your support. Everything I put out is going to stay free and crowd-funded. So that's the way we're going to do it. That's going to be the business model. But Rachel says, call me crazy. I think Marianne Williamson might be good in a Sanders administration, too. I like her. She's kooky, but I like her. I like her. And she came out and defended someone. Who did she defend? About calling for 9/11 truth. A presidential candidate, someone that was running for president. She defended them because it was exposed that they had said that, or maybe she was the one and someone else defended her. No, I think that's it. She was on an interview, Marianne was, and she said that people that are seeking the truth about 9/11 aren't crazy or something to that regard, and they were ripping her to shreds for it, and someone else defended her and said that it wasn't crazy. I think that's what went down. But what does she believe? She's into the crystals and energies and all of that. Isn't that what Marianne Williamson's into? But someone that's getting a lot of support and a lot of attention that I don't think would be any good. And people have said that he would be good in the Sanders administration. I'm wondering what role, and that's Andrew Yang. And he's pushing this universal basic income, which I think is just really, really bad and is going to be a bad direction to move in going forward and something that we should not be cheering. And that's what I think he's there for, is to sell UBI to the regular people, to sell UBI to the young and the future generations, to get them used to it, because that's what the elite and these predators plan to do, is put us on an allowance and have complete control of us. That's the end game. Steve says she's not as kooky as you think. I was just kidding. I was basically going on what they say about her. You know, just she did they make her out to be kooky. I understand that she's not. I didn't mean to make it derogatory about her, um but the Michael Moore thing is actually big, and he will be a good endorsement moving forward. And I realize he stabbed us in the back, but I think he did that out of fear. I don't think he did it any maliciously or was bought off. I think he was really afraid of Trump to that level that he wasn't thinking. But now he is. And Rachel says, agree on Andrew Yang. He would be good, not on policy side, though. Right, so I mean, what role would he be in the administration? He'd really only be in there because of his name, and I don't think that's enough of a classification. I think Bernie's going to have, an experienced cabinet, and I think everyone that's in their positions will be qualified for their positions, which isn't what's happening right now. We've got Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education. She's terrible for education. Unless you like private education, unless your kids are going to a private school, then she's great, but that's who we've got handling our education in this country. But let me know what you guys want to talk about. There's no one conversating on YouTube, or it's not showing me. I refuse to believe no one's commented on YouTube. I've reloaded the page, but I'm not seeing anything on YouTube. But on Facebook, let me know what you want to talk about before we wrap up. Something maybe we already hit on that you want to re-hit on, before we wrap up, just to make sure everybody gets to see it, or anything like that. But Robert said Assange is being poisoned while he is being held in prison. He has been poisoned, obviously. He was very weak. Even though I said he looked reasonably healthy, he was clean shaven. A lot of times that when you've seen him, like when they drug him out of the embassy, he was scraggly and seemed weak. But he also seemed like he was doing that child move where you use your weight against the people trying to pull you. But now he was very slow moving and lethargic, and when he was asked questions, he was slow to answer and they are reporting it that he seemed to have trouble remembering his birth date. But I think there's so much weighing on him, and then Robert's theory about being poisoned could be. Wouldn't surprise me. Isn't that messed up? That when you hear something like that he's being poisoned in prison, you don't even think it's out of the realm of possibilities. Isn't that messed up? That's messed up. I don't like living in that world. Rachel says, I hope Betsy goes to jail. It'll never happen, but she deserves it. They should be prosecuted for what they've done. They won't be. And not just what she's done since being Secretary of Education or whatever, what she's done in her whole life. You don't achieve the kind of wealth that Betsy DeVos has without stepping on a lot of people. You get to that level in society by stepping on a lot of backs and hurting a lot of people. Steve says Bernie's going to have to appoint people who will protect him from the deep state. Sad but true. Oh my God, there's going to be a lot that he'll be up against, and it'll be really interesting to be a part of and to follow. But I think he's got a good plan in place, and I think he'll put a good team together. I have full faith in him, and I think he's a fantastic candidate. Of course I do. That's the way I feel. I host a Daily Burn. I host a Revolution show every day. That's how I feel. But you got to know that things are bad. The media is not going to show you, but things are bad. They're bad for the environment, the planet. They're bad for pollution. They're bad for protecting our natural resources like water. That is in danger. And no one's reporting on the fact that they're trying to run pipelines through all of our water supplies, and these pipelines burst all the time. And this could damage huge amounts of our water. You can't drink oil. Can't you can't drink money. This greed has to stop. So we need to start fighting. We need to rise up because nothing else will stop it. And like I said, the indigenous people that were suing these oil companies just won some victories against some pipelines, but they'll be appealed. The fight's not over, and they need to not be alone in it. The Dakota Access Pipeline is only one pipeline. There's many pipelines, and they burst and rupture and leak all the time. They want to run them through our water supplies. They don't care. They'll destroy everything. They'll bring everything down. And they don't worry about it. They don't think their greed is a problem. They think there's too many of us. We're the parasites. We're the ones that are causing all the problems. That light is bright and hot. I'm sweating in this hat. But Robert says, geez, that's so sad. The Assange poison thing, if true, that's terrible, but it would not surprise me. And it's a crime of justice what's happening with him not being able to prepare a defense. He's up against serious charges. He's not even able to properly communicate with his defense team. And the average person's completely misled about who he even is, what WikiLeaks even is, for that matter. But I want to talk about a couple stories that I think need attention just to make sure that we nail it home. And that's what Hindsight News is about. And that is the Epstein story. There is still a lot there. The media stopped covering it the second that his fake suicide happened. But Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide. You know, a lot of people believe that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. And that's not even crazy. Do you understand how absurd that is? That's not even crazy? This man was very connected to very powerful elite people who have the kind of power that could fake his death and get him out of there and get him to his island or wherever they moved him to. But they silenced the story. Effectively, they silenced the media. No one's talking about it anymore. This was a sex ring with it implicated very elite, powerful people like Bill Clinton was tied to this sex ring, and it just went away, vanished. How convenient. The most protected prisoner in the country is able to be beat up in his cell and then a short while later commit suicide in his cell. Both times off camera, both times couldn't have been stopped. No one noticed nothing, no one heard anything, no witnesses. And then the story just goes away. A huge story that implicated very powerful people. You should see the flight logs on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane. It's a greatest hit list of elite media members and business people and celebrities, and you'd be amazed at the list of people tied to this Epstein guy. And that's just gone away. This was a sex ring. There were other people involved in it. There was a madam. What happened to her? I refuse to believe there's not still somewhere for them to go with this case, but it's just gone now. And we can't allow stuff like that. That's what they suppress. I'm not the only person that's wondering what happened to the Epstein story and where did it go. But those are the things we'll dig and find and look for on this show. And there are other good shows that are putting out that information too. But they're all independent. They're all little shows like this. And they're all just trying to do the best they can to keep the truth alive because it's being killed off in real time and suppressed and eliminated. The war against fake news and the war against conspiracies and all of that is not a war against anything but the truth. They don't care about fake news. They care about suppressing dissenting voices and the truth. Tulsi has stated that she would pardon Julian and Snowden. Oh, really? She officially stated that? And then Steve says, I doubt Epstein is dead. I, I'm leaning more towards that they faked his death too. And a lot of people would say, well, isn't it easier just to kill him off? Just to eliminate him? Wouldn't that be what they'd do? Wouldn't they just kill him off? I don't know. When you really start looking at the big picture, he seemed to have intelligence ties, foreign intelligence ties to the Mossad, and there's a lot there. And he had a lot of information on some very powerful people. You know, he got away with it for a long time. He was protected for a long time. A lot of people were going to be implicated. They were going to get him out of the way. And the only reason why I think he might still be alive is because of things like his network he already had set up, the power he had in place, the ties to intelligence, and his island being in existence already, a place to take him. It's all there. It all lines up. And again, there's no such thing as coincidence. And the autopsy results show fracture from the kind of trauma that involved in a homicide type neck break not a hanging net break. So there's that too. A lot of very interesting things there. And the media is not talking about it anymore. So I wanted to mention that. And then the WikiLeaks. The WikiLeaks that were exposed in 2016. The ones that exposed Pizzagate. Those things are real. Sex trafficking rings are real. And to ignore that information because the media told you it was ridiculous is is aiding in it, is helping it to happen. You know, the information is there, you're choosing to ignore it. The WikiLeaks are there, look at them. Before you call me crazy, look at them. Read them. Did you read them? They're there. They're free. There's no reason not to read them. There's no reason not to look at them except willful ignorance. Everyone is carrying a computer in their pocket. Everyone can look up anything for themselves. They choose not to. But I'm going to keep doing my part to try to get truth out to people. And we'll keep doing this little show and try to inform people and share the truth. But thanks for watching, and tune in next week at 8 p.m. for the next episode. We're going to do this every week. So every Monday at 8, a new episode of Hindsight News. And let me know anything you want to see covered on here. If you want to see us talk about, the title says it all. It's Hindsight News. So we can talk about any underreported old story. It doesn't have to be current. It can be anything. And you can bring something up now and we can get into it before we wrap up. But Steve says a dead man switch, or whatever you call it, information to be released upon death only, insurance. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot there. A lot of reasons why, he may actually be alive. That there could be truth to that. And the other part is it's possible. They can do whatever they want. They have control and the ability to do things that would blow your mind, quite frankly. It would shock you, their reach and what they're capable of. It really would. And we get into a lot of that on Wednesday night. So Wednesday night at 9 p.m., come for Conspiracy Theories and Chill. We are having Roxy Love on. She is a flat earther. And we're going to get into that Wednesday night. I'm going to be putting out promotion for it. We're going to really push this. And I hope it's a huge episode. And I hope you come, no matter how you feel about it. No matter how you feel about Flat Earth. I hope you're there. But Roxy Love's going to be on, and I'm really excited about that. Clinton says, notice how nobody's talking about that anymore? Distraction tactics? Yeah, nobody. Nobody. They got you focused on other stuff. That's how it works. They didn't even have a funeral for Jeffrey Epstein. When was the funeral? Can somebody share me information about a funeral? I can't find it. Like Osama bin Laden buried at sea. My ass. They never killed Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden probably died of natural causes. Osama bin Laden was very sick. He was on dialysis during 9/11. And he was a CIA asset. They lie every opportunity they get. They created Al Qaeda. They created ISIS. They fund them. They gave them weapons. They trained them. They put them together. A lot of those ISIS videos that you saw on TV were propaganda put out by the government. That's a fact. But let me know what you want to talk about. Like, Clinton, you're here now. What do you think the most important story in the media that's not being covered right now is? In your opinion, what do you think something we need to cover before we wrap up to get out there and get out in front of the people or anybody that's here? Let me know and we'll give it exposure. I may not know a lot about it. If I don't, you may have to help me out. But anything you want to share, truth-wise, share it in the feed. That's what this is about, sharing truth. All of my shows really center around the truth, but this one's about sharing the truth with news and information. So put any information or news in this feed. Don't feel like you're trolling or bothering me. Anything you feel is of value, share it. But Clinton says, No funeral because he's not dead. Exactly just like Osama bin Laden. You're my boy. Oh, you're my boy too, Clinton. Clinton, you're my bro. Clinton says they created Al Qaeda and they gave the orders to fly the planes into the buildings. They were pulling the strings the whole time. 9/11, one of my favorite topics. What I believe is a key to unraveling everything and bringing them down and exposing the power that lords over us. I believe that key lies in 9/11, and I believe that it is on purpose that that story doesn't stand on its own, and it's on purpose that your mind argues with you when you try to force that story into it, because I don't think it's supposed to be believable. I think you're supposed to know that something very wrong happened. I think you're supposed to know that. I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the psychological attack that happened on 9/11. But let me know anything, any story. Give me something to wrap up on. It can be 9/11. I could talk about 9/11 all day. But yes, they lined that all up. 9/11 was orchestrated. 9/11 was a false flag. They had the agenda in place for our agenda in the Middle East that we've been doing for the last 18 years was already in place. And you can look this up too. General Wesley Clark did an interview with Democracy Now, and he talked about it. He was in the Pentagon, and they showed him the plan for all these wars. Well, we've done them all except Iran, and we're trying to go to war with Iran now. It's all about that. They had it planned in advance. Look up PNAC, Project for a New American Century. They talk about needing an event like that. Steve says the story of George H.W. Bush in Dallas for JFK is interesting. Yeah, I believe that George H.W. Bush was involved in the JFK assassination. He was there. A lot of key people were in Dallas for the JFK assassination, and there was also a meeting that took place the night before that George Bush was also present at with a lot of people, including people they believe were snipers. So Clinton says, I see 40 people watching. They must be watching from someone's watch party. They should log on to your page and go directly to this. Yeah, if you come to Sean Yankee, my Facebook page, you can comment on the feed and then I can see your comments. If you're in a watch party, that's the unfortunate thing about watch parties because they're awesome, by the way. Watch parties really jump the views. I've noticed that. Watch parties are a great way to share, but one of the flaws in watch parties is that I can't see the watch party comments. And that's unfortunate. But if you're watching in a watch party, come to my feed, Sean Yankee, and follow it there. And then I'll be able to see your comments. But Clinton says they have a book that was written by Rumsfeld and these guys talking about the event that they would need to usher in their agenda, and it was an event much like 9/11. PNAC, Project for a New American Century. That's the name of that group. And most of those people ended up going into the George W. Bush administration in positions of power, including Rumsfeld and Cheney. And the Bush administration absolutely pulled off 9/11. And people say, well, they couldn't have. There's too many people. They never would be able to pull that off. You don't need that many people. You need Donald Rumsfeld involved and Dick Cheney. George W. Bush doesn't even need to be involved. I don't think George W. Bush was even the president. I think Dick Cheney was the president from behind the curtain. And they even made a movie about that. Clinton says, I got to go. See you later, man. Thanks for coming. We're about to wrap up soon anyway. I was just looking for any important stories you guys thought we should talk about, but drop them in the feed. Put them in the comments. Anything you think we should get to or you think that's not getting enough exposure, that's what this platform is for. So anything you want to talk about, let me know and we'll talk about it before we wrap up. But I'm going to do my plugs again. Wednesday night, Conspiracy Theories and Chill, brand new episode. I'll be interviewing Roxy Love, a flat earther. Really looking forward to that. And then Thursday will be a new episode of Yankee Rants. That'll be at 8, and these are Central Times. And the Conspiracy Theories and Chill is 9 on Wednesday, and then Yankee Show on Friday. Daily Burn every day at 7, and support the show. Sorry, I can't talk anymore. babbling. But support the show. The links are in the description for how to support the show. These are going to be professional moving forward. This is my new little side job. This and stand-up comedy. But let me see. There's some people here on YouTube. Let me see what you guys are talking about. Anything you want to talk about, we can get into. James says bags of waste washed out in storm last week in the West Pacific. There are trash islands in the ocean. It's disgusting what we've done to this earth. It really is. And it gets no exposure either. You know, islands of trash just floating in the ocean. Isn't that terrible? This can't continue. This can't continue. You know, I don't care how you feel about politics. We can't allow this destruction to continue. We've got to put a stop to it. We've got to do all we can. And one of the main things that we can do to put a stop to it is to share the truth. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you to those who shared. And we'll see you next week for a brand new episode of Hindsight News. It's a new show, so hopefully you dug it, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.